Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here in just a minute. Now, this panel, as you know, these are your peers. I've been fortunate to work with most of these managers. This really is intended to be very helpful for you all. So up here, I'll let everybody introduce themselves. For those of you that don't know them, but we've got a co-op, North Alabama, that's been in the business over 7 years. We've got some brand new co-ops that's moving into it. I think there's going to be a lot of topics, and these topics will be very beneficial for you all. So I'm going to kick off, guys. What we're going to do is we've got some topics. They're going to do introductions. We've got some topics that we're going to cover, and then we're going to open it up to questions. And Steve, if you would, please.
Steve Foshee with
Tombigbee Electric Cooperative, Northwest Alabama.
Bruce Purdy, North Alabama Electric Co-op, Stevenson, Alabama.
Keith Carnahan, Meriwether Lewis Electric Cooperative in Central Tennessee.
Jimmy Sandlin, Holston Electric Cooperative in Rogersville, Tennessee.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it again, everybody taking time to share. So, Steve, I'd like to start with you. You know, when we first sat down with you, you were very adamant, very clear on the tenets, the 4 pillars of your project and what you wanted to do for community. Can you share those with us and what you've been able to do so far with your community?
Glad to. I really appreciate the presentation before because the more you go, the more you learn. We had 4 objectives, and they all had to deal with the community to do our fiber project. Number 1 was education. We took a position that if our rural children were going to compete with the world, we had to help our great educational system become greater. So what good is it for a fiber connection to be at school if the children were building most of their work at home with their parents have nothing? They can't communicate, they can't really get to the educational status that they want to get to. So if we can get a fiber connection to the home in rural Northwest Alabama, we're going to improve education. Number 2, telemedicine. That I really now, based on our Senator Jones in his state, has educated me to start calling it e-medicine. E-medicine, not telemedicine. I like the word telemedicine, I still use it, but he likes e-medicine, and it seemed like to me e-medicine kind of sticks a little bit better. So our rural hospitals are at jeopardy. Our medical thing is at jeopardy. So we have a lot of initiatives to try to change the world in that regard. Number 3, we've got to create an economic engine in Northwest Alabama. The fact of the matter is we've been declining, and we've been declining for a lot of years. So economic development is a critical component. And 4th, if we're going to keep our young people and not export them to the cities like Huntsville, we're going to have to provide a quality of life where they want to stay. We've got to give them a good job, but we've got to provide the quality of life that they require, that they can get right here in the city of Huntsville or Birmingham or Nashville or anywhere else. We've got to provide that. That's just the way it is. It's been that way for a long time, and it was that way back in the 1930s when we were born through the REA Act. So we've got to do that, and that's our 4 tenets what we're trying to achieve.
Bruce, you were an early adopter, the first one of the group, probably one of the first in the country. Can you discuss with us just a little bit about the partnerships, your retail relationship and partnerships on the broadband side, how you ended up being a retail provider versus a wholesale provider, and how you got into the business relative to the RUS grant and the stipulations you had to start your program off?
Okay, we began in late 2010. Really began to do heavy construction beginning in 11. We've had a few partnerships since the beginning. We were a little early, which simply meant there wasn't as many people to talk to and maybe get advice from, and where the relationships with with Adrian and Tommy and his partners really began. So we've had a few partnerships. A couple of primary did not go well. We had to overcome those. When you do have to overcome those, you take a large step back, and then you move forward again. And today we have one very positive partnership that enables us to use someone that's larger than us, and with their resources, assets, it enables us to be better than we probably could be serving a very rural area than we otherwise could be. So partnerships can be vital, especially the more rural, the smaller you are, the less dense populations you have. Take that very serious, because while you're searching for that partnership, you can also find yourself in difficult situations there also. So we've been doing this. We probably installed our first member 2014 early. Today, I think we are at 4,400. We install approximately 25 a week, and we get approximately 20, 30 applications a week still, and that keeps us at about a 4 to 6 week turnaround. It works for us. It's been working for a while. On the retail side, it was very simple for us. In 2002, as an electric distributor, we were about 85 megawatts. By 2010, we were 33 megawatts. So that's what happened to us. We lost a 20 megawatt customer, a couple 9s, and then here went the 3s and the 2s. As the manager of the electric company, that makes you look unintelligent, right? So we had to make a turnaround from an economic development standpoint, and that just wasn't going to happen, because I do sit on our county's economic development board of directors, and that just was not going to happen. We didn't have the communication, and without it, we were losing out on projects very quickly. Whether it's coincidence, it certainly wasn't, because we built the fiber. Things have improved. Google's building a data center there a few miles from our co-op. On the way down this morning, driving here, as of next week, I actually have a crypto mining company that's going to be bringing in quite a few megawatts over by the end of November. So you learn things. I'm not that up on crypto mining at the moment, but I imagine by the end of the year, I'll know quite a bit more about it. So I hope I answered.
Oh, yes, very helpful. Keith, your project, Keith, I think is the largest one we've been involved with. When we met with you, you've already had quite a bit of backbone fiber. Can you talk about how that's helped your project?
Our cooperative, it's been about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now. Our cooperative decided to build a backbone fiber to connect all of our inter-office communication and all of our substations to improve our communications and help our network on the electrical system. We built about 180 miles of fiber. At the time, we didn't just put up just what we needed. We actually, the cost is not in the fiber, it's in the installation of the fiber. So you put up the largest counts you can put up, and you use what you can, and then we look for other business opportunities to try to lease either dark fiber or bandwidth to other people. We have several of those contracts in place. And then as we came down to make a decision as to whether we were going to do a fiber to the home project, and going through our feasibility study, having that core fiber in place was instrumental in making our decision. It helped drive our economics quite a bit, and made our decision for our board of directors much easier for them. Now, it's not a cheap project in any stretch of imagination. We cover 5 counties and a little bit west of Nashville. The rural county is about 35,000 members, so we have, according to the state law in Tennessee, when we enter the retail business, we have to be able to provide service to every member of our cooperative. So that's 35,000 passages we have to do. So that's how we decided to do that. And that fiber ring really brought the economics into line where we were able to make a decision to move forward.
One thing I've noticed too, your engineering team already knows fiber, and that's allowed us all to move really quickly, I think.
Exactly right. Working with fiber for so long, our engineering team has been instrumental. They understand it, they've worked with it, they know how it operates. We have a network person already on staff that understands the networking side of it and is learning more as we move into this fiber to the home network. So having that those core people in place have really helped that decision.
Jimmy, your area really, I think, speaks to a term we use. It's a practical term called cherry picking. But Jimmy, I'd like for you to talk to us just, if you would, a little bit about the coverage that was in your area, the disparity in service, and how that led you to launch your project, if you would.
We also started a couple years ago looking at building a fiber backbone. And 20 years ago, just up the road here, I was a manager at Scottsboro. We built an HFC network. And I remember coming to Avtran 20 years ago, looking at their technology. And of course, we couldn't afford any of it back then. It's gotten a lot better and cheaper. But a telephone co-op, actually headquartered in Virginia, had gotten some tobacco settlement money and built a loop down into one of our rural areas. And actually, we had exchanged an MOU with this telephone co-op and had probably a dozen different conversations with them. And you know, we pretty much picked up on their design or their philosophy of building loops, you know, into their network for redundancy, you know, self-healing and that kind of thing. But the problem is they built it into an area and they would just serve customers off that loop, and they wouldn't build any additional radials off this fiber. And so what they're really, you know, it's almost like a scorched earth type business strategy where they get as many customer connections as they can get, but they sort of spoil the service area for anybody else to come in. Now, like Keith said, if you go into the business in Tennessee through our state enabling acts, we have to serve every customer that we serve electricity to. Over time, we don't have to do it in 36 months or 5 years, but over time we have to do it. So we're going to serve those customers regardless of who's there and how they got there. And, but it creates some challenges.
I think, Jimmy, I think it's the western portion of your system, I was shocked at how many, I think, was there 10,000 members unserved? It was
It's pretty much all over. About 40% of our members, is what we call residential customers in the co-op world, don't have access to a wireline broadband provider, which would give them at least 25 megabits down and 3 up. So there's a tremendous need. Now, we do have good density, and we have a fair amount of industrial load, but still, there's educational opportunities people are missing, employment opportunities, and then I really enjoyed the telemedicine presentation that, I think something is true, and I maybe need to ask the experts, but probably some of the most unhealthy people in America are probably living in rural America because they don't have access to better health care. It's too difficult for them to go to a doctor or a specialist, and quite frankly, their choices, diet choices, may not be as good. So I think this could be a tremendous benefit for them.
Steve, one of the questions we get a lot is, everywhere we visit, we ask, who's got tangible proof that they brought jobs? Broadband's been part of bringing jobs to their community. Can you comment on jobs saved, jobs created, which you've seen in just since you've launched Freedom Fiber?
Yeah, For a rural community, a rural area, obviously every job's important. The first thing to do is keep the jobs you got. And that was one of the issues that was a major concern. We don't have the density where folks can get who are in the existing business, they get a pretty good return on their investment fairly quickly. So what do? We got to fix that. So we've been able to preserve hundreds of jobs that we have. You know, that the presidents were telling me if we didn't do this, they were going to have to relocate. It was just a vital issue, and they just couldn't sustain anymore and go to different communities. They had a broadband network. So we've begun the process of solving that. I was in a plant yesterday that we're moving to. We're going to start our third phase. This company employs almost 600 folks, and they have no broadband capability. And they compete with China, India, all kind of countries. And it's a highly competitive world. They pay over $20 an hour. And it's without that company there, that community is very much at jeopardy. And so they're trying to do that without broadband. It's impossible. So was visiting with them, and we're working out plans to get in there and solve that problem. And additionally, we've, along with other factors, but a big factor, huge factor, is that we've recruited companies already. And it's a regular thing that we're having conversations. So we've created hundreds of jobs by having this. And if we didn't have it, they wouldn't have come. So it's a big part. I want to say this, right here is the smart guy in the room, because it was Bruce that was engaged, and I was able to sit at his feet, and I also was able to sit at Katie's feet, who was up here before. These folks were tremendous in order to advise us and counsel us as to what to do.
Bruce, when I go to visit your office, I'm always amazed you built 1,100 miles of fiber. You did that so quickly, and the morale is high. And how have you structured that, your team, and how have you been able to keep your morale so high?
Okay, when we started, much like you're going to hear in your territory, our territory, almost all of our territory was unserved. We had a couple of smaller towns, Bridgeport, Stevenson, there was charter. And then AT&T allowed 50 subscribers, and then that 50 had been tapped out for many years. Portion of our territory is served as CenturyLink. That was 1.5 million. All of a sudden one day we put together an industrial park in Hollywood right in front of Bellefonte nuclear plant, and a lot of money invested. We built a substation. A lot of money invested to find out maximum 3 megs. We started, I did. I went to Pell City, Alabama, and met with the CEO of CenturyLink, Alabama, begging for some bandwidth. So anyway, we decided if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be us. So we get started. We did have to do, especially a couple of us, we had to dedicate ourselves about 3 years of our lives, because you're still running the electric company. You just have something new on the plate. And we couldn't hire as much of it outside contractors as, of course, what you would like to. So yeah, you did have to dedicate yourself. Now, morale, most of the employees, North Alabama Electric Co-op, they have a wife and children. They'd like to have internet at their house, and they do not have it. So they're working for the benefit of their own family. That improves morale. So there was a lot of things that came into play. Did you have to have cooperation from your existing electric side? Absolutely. Fortunately, that's built into the culture, so I didn't have a problem there. And it just really wasn't that difficult. And I think today, I don't care if you're talking to a lineman, one of the CSRs, or anybody associated, I think they'll tell you they're proud of it. Needless to say, we all know electricity is taken for granted today, especially until you lose it anyway, right? People appreciate you when you bring them broadband. They appreciate it, and they show appreciation. And they express that, and I don't think we have a person working at the co-op that doesn't like that pat on the back. So morale's not an issue.
So Keith, on your journey, can you share with the other managers that might be maybe a year or two behind where you're at now, and how you went through your education process?
Thank you, Tom, for that. As far as the education process, we, like heard people say, we're an electric co-op, we're not in telecommunication. Unlike Jimmy, who had done it before, I learned a lot from people like Bruce and Steve and Jimmy. You have to come to these meetings like this to try to educate yourself to understand what people are talking about, and then to relate that to your board members. The board members, our board members are a great group of men and women that work together for the betterment of our cooperatives. But just like us in the electric cooperative world, they didn't understand about the communication world either. When you talk to them about what a fiber is, what a network interface module is, what wireless is, you have to actually understand it yourself, and then also how to communicate that to your board. So we worked for several months just educating our board on what we were looking to do. One of my directives to my employees, and also my commitment to our board, is not to lose focus as who we are. We've been in business 79 years as an electric cooperative, and our first and foremost priority is providing safe, affordable, reliable electricity. This is something that we're going to do to provide a service for our members. So we have to remember what our core business is and not lose focus of that. And then also how to educate yourself to know what you're talking about to make a good, informed decision as you move into by far the largest investment our cooperative has ever made since the late 30s, early 40s. So it's talking to someone to try to commit them to spend so many millions of dollars, and trying to look at what the payback is over time. That's one of the advantages that we have as an electric cooperative. We were able to set up a subsidiary company that's a nonprofit company. We're looking to provide service. So our payback right now, according to our feasibility study, is 18 years down the road. This investment we're making now, we'll not break even until 18 years down the road. Now we'll turn a profit. We'll start paying back our debt, but trying to teach someone to make that, to have enough knowledge to make a decision to commit to that. It was tough. It was a tough road to haul, but just took time and also a lot of forethought from the board of directors too.
Jimmy, for you, I think if you can comment as you've moved into the funding piece of your business, what have you learned and what recommendations do you have on how to fund the system?
Electric cooperatives, as many of you know, have three main sources of capital. There's RUS with the federal government. Those that have done RUS work plans and loans in the past understand that takes a tremendous amount of work. There's the National Rural Utilities Cooperative Finance Corporation, CFC. We're doing primarily our initial funding through them. And then CoBank, there's some folks from CoBank here today. Your entire network is going to cost, $30, $40, $50 million, whatever it ends up being. And for the most part, FiberRise was able to give us a good business plan, break the project up into phases. You can't build it all at once anyway. And I'll give Tommy and his team a lot of credit. They directed us to go ahead and build the denser areas first, the areas that we could not even hope to get grants for. But you know, there's going to be a fourth source of capital for these networks, and these are the grants that are available. We've been able through FiberRise's assistance to win one of the CAP 2 awards. That's a yearly supplement that goes for 10 years. We've applied for some other grants, and then we're also about to apply for the Tennessee ECD grant. So with, you know, there's close to $10 billion a year in Universal Service Fund monies that are collected. Most of that money it goes to these large cap carriers, the AT&Ts of the world. You know, we need to do more boots on the ground work in DC, working with our elected officials, because we clearly are the willing broadband providers in rural America. We, through Como Electric and North Alabama, you know, we've proven that we can make very good use of government grants and loans to build these networks. We're responsible. We take care of our members. We do what we say we're going to do. We're not going to spin this off into a separate company and sell it in 10 years. So, you know, you'll need to split it up into phases. We've got ours broken up into 4 phases. But, you know, I encourage you to look into grants as much as possible.
Steve, you've probably got the most rural system, 4.5 meters a mile. You've been successful with grants. Can you talk how you've been successful? Share just a little bit how it's important to your model, just to expand on that, how you've been successful.
Grace is over here talking to me, and he's saying the words perseverance. Any of y'all ever, I'm sure you have, you come off in one of these cities and you come off the interstate exit and you come to the bottom of the exit and you got to turn. And always at one of those exits you have a guy standing there with a pasteboard sign and say that he needs money. Well, that's me. I'm just like him. We're kind of cousins. Except I got a lot of zeros on mine. You know, there's a lot of zeros. But there's no difference. We do exactly the same time. I'm a world-class beggar. Today, how have we done? In 12 months, we have accumulated $6.1 million in approved grants. Some of the team members in here, not only FiberRise and all of the folks associated with FiberRise, with Jackson and Thornton, Rod back here that you're going to hear from. He's on our speed dial. He gets emails every day. It's a process. It's a big process. You got to have the right team. You got to fight. Sean's here with our statewide organization, tremendously helpful. There's a lot of politics. You got to develop a excellent relationship with all of your political leaders. We have a good one. I've been told that I have a picture on TV every now and then in this market here with Representative Congressman Hatterholt. We did that, and we're thrilled to do it. In fact, I got folks from Birmingham who was way outside his district are calling me and said they're going to vote. I hope they did for Congressman Hatterholt last night, because he won by a big margin. You know, so Congressman Hatterholt is actually tremendous. So you got to have an excellent working relationship with your congressman. It really helps to have an excellent working relationship with the governor, because we have some issues within the state of Alabama, like Tennessee does, and the various economic agencies with that. The other side of it is, just because you get a grant, that's only half the battle. Now the real work starts, the staying in compliance. Ours has come from RUS, ARC, FCC, SEC, the football, I'm kidding about that one. Maybe we should apply with them, maybe they got something. So every one of those have different rules, they have different regulations, they have different issues. We've got another 4.5 million pending somewhere out there that we haven't heard from yet. So all that's tremendously important, but you get turned down a lot. So like a beggar, you only need a $20 bill every now and then to live on. So that's the way we are.
So Bruce, Katie talked earlier about services, our differentiator in this business we're in now. I remember Shaw Industries, how quickly you all moved. Can you talk just a little bit about how you've seen your ability to service both your residential and your commercial accounts be positive for you all? How you're able to do that?
What he just mentioned is exactly what will make you successful, even in parts of your territory that you obviously will have someone, whether they're underserved, but there'll be someone there, a cable company, the existing phone company. Most likely if it's a phone company, there'll be some positive stories. Most likely if it's a cable company, there won't be. It'll be your customer service that will make the difference between you and anyone else. And it'll be the easiest thing that any of you out there do, as long as you just, in the beginning, you're going to be told you can't provide the same level of service that you provide to your electric customers. And you can. You just have to say that you're going to, and then you do it. Is there small deltas? Yeah. If TV is out at 1 a.m., yeah, it's probably going to be the next morning. Matter of fact, unless there's a sympathy story, about 9 p.m., and that's reasonable, okay? But it's the service. So even with our industrial, which we have built back to some small degree in our commercial, we're there. What do you need? And you can control it. You will have the resources, the skill sets within your building to do whatever you want to do. And that reaction time will make you be appreciated. It will create loyalty. And the ones of you that are concerned about the decision you're making, that will be the difference. And why you will be okay, your cash flow will be fine. You'll survive it. And he was talking about Shaw. Actually, I think it was Beaulieu of America. It's one of our textiles that we managed to maintain through since NAFTA. And just last year, bankruptcy, which it turns out Mohawk shows up out of Dalton, Georgia, and purchases the largest facility in my service territory. But we got into an issue after a number of trips to Dalton and meeting with Mohawk, and they called one afternoon about 6 o'clock, and they said, hey, about midnight tonight, we need wireless throughout the plant. All right. I got about 4 young fiber guys that started with engineering design, went to construction, went to installs, and each contractor that came in, I made them hire 2 of these guys. Every one of them, it was a requirement. They had to hire these 2 because I knew when everybody was gone, this 2 was not going anywhere. They're home. And I called these 2 guys. I said, here's the mission. By midnight tonight, we need wireless in this pretty large plant facility. And I believe they told me there's a conduit heading into the control house. Find that conduit and get at it. By midnight that night, they had a gig of wireless flowing throughout that facility. And because of that, unless it changes hands, I think they'll be a customer of ours for a very long time. Is that it?
That's a great example, and that's the level of service we've seen from all of our co-ops that we work for. Keith, I want you, if you would, share a little bit about your model, your take rates, what you expect to receive, how you plan to exceed those, and what your strategy is there.
Sure, I appreciate that. When we first embarked on our feasibility study, we have a large service area. Of course, we have a 5-county area. We have no telephone cooperatives in our system. We have some competition in some of our major cities, a Comcast and a Charter, in some areas, a few wireless providers. And as we looked through the feasibility study, it became very apparent that we were going to have to hit those densely populated areas, our city areas that already had service. We had to hit those quickly to, number one, make a presence there, and also to drive our service, our level of service, because all of when we did our study, any of our marketing analysis, the current providers really got some bad press. So we wanted to be in there and be a good service provider. As we looked at doing it that way, the take rate of our feasibility study is 30%. If we make a 30% take rate, that's 3 out of every 10 passings will take our service. If that happens, our project will be successful. I think we can drive 3 out of 10. That should not be an issue in our service area, especially in our unserved areas where they have absolutely nothing. If we can, our base offering we're going to offer is 300 meg, symmetrical up and down, and a 1 gig service also symmetrical for residential. That's our basic offering for residential, and also phone service. We after a lot of consultation with Mr. Purdy here, we decided not to go into video. We're going to provide an offering with our fiber offering that they'll be able to stream. We're going to do a lot of education on how to stream television service. If you look at the trends for video, it's declining. It may not be declining as fast as some may think, but it is declining. So as far as our decision for our end, and it's an individual decision. It's not something that's for everyone. You know, that decision, you need to look at your market, look at your service. It's got to be your decision based on your system. So those are the decisions those are the points we looked at to make a decision. And then that take rate of 30%, we felt like that should not be any issue. It's very conservative. And with that conservative number, it still made our feasibility study work out. So that was very encouraging. And if we get 40, 50% in our rural areas, we figure we'll probably get up into 60 to 70% in our rural areas, because they really do not have anything. They're very, very underserved or not served at all.
Thank you, Keith. So this will be our last question, then we're going to take some questions from the audience. Jeannie, in your area, in your previous role, you had some stiff competition, and you're at Holston now. In your cities, you've got a good bit of competition, not so much in the rural areas. Can you speak to how you've been successful, what you've seen, and anything you can share when you have stiff competition in certain areas?
Sure. Just kind of, a war story, and one that certainly, when you hear, you have some caution. You can be go, but you got to realize that in areas, in our case at Holston today, 60% of our system we're going to have competition. I'm not really worried about the phone company. I was telling Katie a story earlier that if a wire line goes down, a single residential type service, most likely the phone companies are going to try to turn that customer over to a wireless service and not repair that line, just continue to shrink that footprint. But when you're competing against these large companies, we'll have Charter in a couple of our markets, Comcast in one of the markets. I know Chattanooga EPB. Everybody's got their story about competition. So competition is going to be there in day one. It's going to be there most likely forever. But as as Katie and Steve and Bruce have mentioned, what wins the day as you go through this is providing a fairly good level of service, pretty close to what you're doing on the electric side of things. Answering the phone, we've all got offices that our customers can go into and talk to people that live there. We know where they live. We know the neighborhoods, the streets. We go to church with these people. Our kids play ball with each other. We're going to be there. It's not a situation where they have to call a phone number and talk to somebody in India or wherever. But they do, these competitors, the Charters of the world, the AT&Ts of the world, they have a lot of money. And, examples of Scottsboro where they pay a data customer, we had $200 cash to switch. They pay a video customer $200 cash to switch, and then they give them a rate for that service of $19.95 for, close to 18 months. So, we ended up losing about 25% of our customers, but we didn't panic. We kept our rates the same. We kept providing very good service. We kept updating the technology, because in the early years that we started doing, cable modem based internet, we went through 4 vendors in 4 years. We started out with Hybrid Networks, we went to 3Com, we went to Cisco, we went to Aris. So, the technology challenges, with this business is pretty intense. I mean, in the electric business, we go out here and buy a power transformer we set in a substation and it sits there for 50 or 60 years, right? That's not the way technology works out. You got to refresh this several times over a 20-year period. So the competition will be there day one, and it'll be there until you retire, somebody else takes it over, and depending on how important that market is to that large company, will most likely depend on what they try to do.
Stay the course. Yeah. Well, thank you. I think now we're going to open up, Mark, if you'll help, we're going to open up for questions in the audience.
I gotta believe people have questions for this group. Who wants to go?
Been pretty reserved, so.
One thing, let me start off, because usually that I get things going. From some prior things that I've had, one of the things, most of my background has been spent dealing with those same people that y'all are talking about, the current incumbent carriers that have been involved. One of the things they've always seen that's different is handling trouble tickets and those customer service calls. I remember one such telephone company in one of these other events saying, y'all don't usually get a phone call when the toaster's not working, right? But as a communications provider, you're liable to get a call if their iPad's not connected to the internet. How have you been handling, and how is that experience, and have you seen yourself able to differentiate and have that good customer service experience as compared with what most of us are familiar with in the communications provider world?
During your normal business hours, and we're fortunate enough, we have one young man in the back, and he's been there since day one. And when I hired him, he knew 0. So he's learned from literally the very first day. He has patience. He's polite. He sits there and he works it through, okay? And you got to have that person. He has all the patience. Like I said, he's courteous, he's polite, works great. After hours, there's your problem. You better have someone that is treating your members like you want them treated. We have made that change. I will tell you, today we are with a company here in Huntsville. It's called API Digital, which has just recently been purchased by Neonova, which is an NRTC-owned company. So we were here, they were purchased, it went to here, we had some very serious conversations, we're back to here, and there you go, okay? But I'll call me sometime in the future, I'll tell you how it ended up. But after hours, that's the issue. It's what you walk into the next morning. If it's not handled well, At the same time, when we went to API, we were averaging, I think it was 47 truck rolls a day. And we didn't have that many employees. Within a couple of weeks of going to API, we were averaging 4 truck rolls a day. So that's how many of these issues were being accomplished over the telephone. Okay, it's very important.
I might just add that if you go into this business, you really need to strongly consider offering a managed Wi-Fi service, because if you use, in fact, I visited API Digital this morning, that's part of me and over. The customers are going to call when their iPads won't connect, their laptops. You're going to be answering those questions regardless of if they're paying an additional fee for a managed Wi-Fi service. So you might as well try to monetize that, make a little money, and cover, the expense of answering those calls and questions. So everything inside the home is going to wireless, just about, and so you need to be prepared to deal with that.
Okay.
Keith, I have a question about your backbone. When you built your backbone, did you build it for long haul and have to come back and retrofit it, or did you build it with the future in mind to offer fiber to the home?
When it was first built, it was built with the future in mind. One thing that's the beauty, it's been said before about fiber optics. The fiber optics do not change. The actual cable does not change. It's just your electronics driving those. So with that in mind, we built it with the future in mind. We dedicated a certain amount for our own internal use, and then we have plenty of spare to be able to utilize for either. We did the dark fiber leases, we've done some bandwidth leases, and then we also, with the future in mind, that we would move into broadband eventually. It was prohibitive for us to do it for several years in the state of Tennessee until the state law was changed in 2017. So it's with that in mind, it was done with the future in mind, but also we didn't just put up just what we needed at the time. We knew something would come down, almost like if you build it, they will come mentality. And it came some, but we knew that we would utilize it also.
Hey, I'd like to add too, fiber, we've got fiber experts in the back. If y'all have questions, AFL's here, they can answer really any question. WDM, fiber expansion, so please visit with them.
Yeah, I have another question, about the customer service portion. Obviously, that is going to be what differentiates us from everybody else that's out there, from the competition. When you trained your people for customer service, or your existing customer service people for the new platform, was that a large learning curve? Did you hire in new people that already had some experience in that area, or how did y'all handle that?
And so that, just because I'm not in the business yet totally, but I'm going to give you my thoughts behind that. I went to try to find a partner that was doing customer service right now, and I went ahead and contracted with them to do that, because I don't have the expertise and my people didn't have the expertise to do it. So I went looking for someone that I could partner with to be able to provide that level of service, that I felt comfortable that they would provide that level of service for my members. So.
At Tombigbee, very much like Bruce, during the day, we trained our MSRs to do that. They have a great deal of capability. We have some excellent employees. They may answer an electric question this minute and turn around the next minute and answer a fiber question or an internet question or a phone question, up to a basic level. Then we have some technicians. So if it's beyond theirs, then sitting there, they will transfer. And that's a small amount of calls that gets transferred to a technician. At night, we have Logicom, who answers our after-hours calls. Being in the electric business, there are a couple of things on the electric side that changed my world, at least from my perspective, is when we moved to prepaid. That really reduced a lot of complaints. On the fiber side, I've had 0 calls. I've had almost 0 issues to come to me. It's not occasionally that we don't have a a customer issue. It's not occasionally that a technician doesn't come in, and we'll go beyond the norm to make sure that we have a satisfied customer. We will make a truckload and go to that house, and we'll make sure that they're satisfied. And it'll often be their issue. It'll be their iPad, it'll be something like that, but we'll go beyond the norm to make sure that, and very much like Katie said, you know, get it right to start with. 99% of the time we do that. Occasionally we don't, but we'll bust our tail to make sure that we do get it right. So at night they're handled super. During the day they're handled super by existing employees. You know, it's just not been an issue for us.
And Steve's right, me and him did it pretty close same, but in case I got a TVA snitch in here, my electric people don't answer fiber calls, okay? Phone call. Basically what I did, what Keith did sounded great. Unfortunately, in our service territory, those people just did not exist, okay? So what we ended up doing, it might work if you're in a really rural area. When I brought in all these contractors, now some came in, but had them hire as many local as possible. And over time, knowing that the local guys would probably want to stay on with us when everybody else went to the next project. And then over time, much like you've seen with linemen, you see a group of 4 guys come in, 3 of them look like they roll down a hill, and 1 doesn't have a speck of dirt on him, okay? And that's your guys, you need to try on the inside. And I ended up with a couple of guys that ended up on the inside, and it turned out really well.
Anyone else? Oh, here we go.
Before we leave, I will share, I would like, because of the group we're talking to, for any of you who's thinking about building this, consider the decision just made by TVA in opening up their fiber to everyone. Think about that for a few moments now. We've had that debate in at least North Alabama with TVA. The debate's ongoing. A couple of you may have heard, I actually shut it down the other day. They were building the Madison to Widows Creek, which they needed our help, and shut it down for a couple of days trying to get a point across. I'm a little concerned when they finish this $300 million build. And for the most part, they're going to try to touch all of us, which sounded like a good thing until they decided they were going to be a transport company. And it doesn't concern me if you drop off a company with 20 million subscribers in my 2 most dense area substations. Can you hurt me? Yeah. Any of us that has taken the risk of taking this on, supplying services to all of our members. If you come in and you cherry pick our 2 most dense areas, or 3, depending on where you are, you can hurt us. So any of you considering this, please take a moment, think about this, and maybe talk to your CSCM and share your thoughts, okay?
Construction styles and types, ADSS versus LASH. What did you guys do?
ADSS, it's worked out well.
We're using ADSS also.
We use strand lash on the backbone, and then we're using ADSS. ADSS just goes up so much quicker, plus you've got some options if you need to use any of the power space. I think cost per mile, you're going to be cheaper with ADSS. But it took me a while to be convinced of that.
We're the same. We use lash when it's necessary, when it's not. I'm going to give a commercial like Bruce, and I guess because I'm a beggar, there's a big issue coming down the road, and all of you with co-ops, we need to pay attention to this, and we need to be working right now. The $600 million that the USDA is writing the rules So they've had the comment period. Some of us participated on that, some of us did not. Some of us talked about it, but they're writing the rules. And if you take the Connect America Fund, which is through RUS, which we've gotten a grant, Community Connect, I get all of them confused, but yeah. There's a word in there, one word. It's called mobile. And a lot of co-ops filed this time, and they didn't get their application to Washington because their area had so-called mobile service. Well, we all know in the room that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say you can change anything with that, but there it is. And so your application didn't even qualify to get to Washington. And that's one word. So writing these rules correctly matters. Encouraging members of Congress, encouraging staffs to continue to support. I absolutely firmly believe the Secretary of Agriculture, the Undersecretary of Agriculture wants to do this right. I have zero problem with that. But if the rest of Washington and those folks who make a living up there who write the rules are not listening as closely, that's where things could go haywire. I'm very, very nervous about it. I think the $600 million with co-banks help to provide private capital and CFC, which could be a 2 or 3 times merging with that. Now you're talking about $3 billion. That would change rural America. But to do that, we've got to get it right. And I'm still hearing the word 10-1. So if you got 10-1 service, I'm still hearing that if you look at the FCC map, and most of us would freak about that and say that's ridiculous, there's no truth to that. Well, the biggest storytellers in the world is the FCC, and I've been quoted as that. I used the word liar. I'm not backing up from that. Now I'm hearing 25-3. Magically, 25-3. What's the extent of 25-3? Can I hear the word DSL? You gonna change the world with 25-3? I don't think so. All these issues about e-medicine, are you gonna change that with 25-3? The answer is no, you're not. So what do we gotta have? We gotta have something better than that, and we gotta have it freed up, and we gotta have private capital to come in there with the public capital, and we can change rural America. The key, the absolute key, is what the rules are going to be, and I hear they're coming out in January, so which means probably March. But if it is January, I believe they're in the dead middle of writing those rules or toward the end, and it matters. It really, really matters, and if we're not engaged. So now I'm talking politics. If we're not engaged right now, shame on us, because the greatest opportunity to benefit rural America will have passed us by. And believe you me, there are big boys in Washington who's telling a falsehood story right now. Because I've had our senator call and tell me this stuff. Bad things are being said. It's not true. And we've got to push back. That's a commercial.
I will comment, there's a white paper on our table that discusses comparison of fiber versus DSL, so if you want to get educated on that, please see our table back there.
Would each one of you mind sharing if you set up a legal entity like a subsidiary or a separate corporation, or if you're just doing your business under your electric system corporation?
We have a whole team of lawyers that worked on this, still are, so they're regularly employed. There's a lot of issues. So ours is a subsidiary, and that was their recommendation of the way we go. Part of it's a governance thing. So we actually supply fiber to Alabama Power customers. Well, I don't want them to be a member to turn around and vote for our board, from the elected. That creates a little bit of an issue. Yeah, ours is subsidiary.
Much different situation for me. I never set up a subsidiary. I didn't do any of those things. It's just North Alabama Electric Co-op. Now, of course, to satisfy TVA, regulatory, and audits, of course, we carry 2 sets of books. You'll need to. It's the only way you can financially manage it. But one entity, no. Now, in-house, we call ourselves North Alabama Fiber. But that's to distinguish among myself, the CFO. That's just so we don't get confused.
At Meriwether Lewis, we did set up a subsidiary, Meriwether Lewis Connect, and that was after advice from several lawyers and people that have been through this, and also with TVA regulatory, having to make sure you do not cross subsidize. It makes it a lot easier to have a subsidiary, and we do keep separate books for both. Even though it is 100% owned by our electric cooperative, it is a subsidiary, so there is some financials at the end of the year that we will do.
Yeah, Holston Electric set up a Holston Connect subsidiary. That's required by state law that was passed last year. Just like Chattanooga, North Alabama, and various other TVA local power companies that have gone into the broadband business, a lot of times the fiber plant is owned by the electric system, and that's the model we're using. Anything that's specific to providing broadband services like a telephone switch, a connection on a data network, or broadband CPE equipment like routers, video boxes, all those things have to be owned by the subsidiary, and then the subsidiary will lease space off the fiber system and pay money to the electric system for that use. So pretty much separate set of books, and I think one of the great points of interest that I got from Katie's presentation is without their broadband system, they would have had to have rates 8% higher than they do today. So there's a tremendous amount of benefit. I know at my co-op, we can already estimate somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million worth of existing labor and overhead that's going to be transferred over to the broadband system once we get that business up on its feet.
Tommy, Sean Strickler with Alabama Rural Electric, just, to back up what Steve's talking about with the grants. I hope no one in here, when they look at their models, their feasibility studies, takes grants as something that's going to make them whole, because I'll be honest with you, I've dealt with a lot of these grants, worked closely with Steve on a lot of different things. I wouldn't expect a dime out of the 600 million. I think it's a great thought, it's a great idea, but if you look at the way the big boys in Washington, D.C. are inserting themselves into the process, they don't want co-ops involved in this business. They don't want to see that happen. That's why they want to see the 10-1, they want to see the 25-3, because the mistake I believe that we made in looking at these grants is we looked at speed, not technology. We looked at an opportunity where they could band-aid systems to get them to 25-3, that they could use old forms of technology without upgrading to fiber, to be able to still get these grants. Or if it was in a area that has mobile, they could exclude more densely populated areas of rural Alabama, rural America, to where they're excluded from those grant eligible areas. So go into it, look at it, it provides a great service, but don't count on grant funds. Hopefully the system is written to where we can take advantage of it and we can get those, but I wouldn't count on them at this point in time, because the big boys out there that are getting a lot of money through CAF and the other things, they don't want to have to upgrade their system. They want to continue to get CAF funds without doing very much to their system or actually investing in upgrades to their system in rural areas.
I agree with that, Sean.
Like I told my board, any grant funding we get is just like icing on the cake. We make sure you do your feasibility studies without taking anything of that into account. I agree 100%.
Panel, thank y'all so much. Thank you.